4th of July was just another holiday at different places. Was at the parks sometimes at, I don't know who started it. It just seemed like it was a custom that it was there when I got there as a child. And they played ball. They'd ask everyone what they've been doing, what's going on, and just nothing else, just the love between the family and others that were invited to come or came. Whether invited or not, it didn't really matter. Everyone was welcome. A joyous time.
The 4th of July picnic to me would mean Aunt Mabel and Uncle Stoney, because Daddy was always busy and never made any of those, because that's right in the heart of farming. But Aunt Mabel and Uncle Stoney always went, so, and usually Uncle Bill and Bertie were there early and had everything kind of going, and we might be by a river or a creek, or I have no idea where all those picnics were. Sometimes Sylvie's Island, and I was too young to kind of pay any attention where Uncle Stoney was driving us.
Yeah.
And sometimes it rained and we had to sit in the car, and we kept saying, it's raining anyway, can't we just
get
go out?
And then I remember still in my mind, I can see Bob and Doug and Dale and Gary jump into the creek or the water. I don't know what it was there, but obviously water someplace at where we were. And Aunt Mabel, oh, look at those crazy kids. Those boys are just crazy. You know, they always are. And she'd laugh. She said, it's just raining like crazy, and look what they're doing. And that's when Carolyn said, well, you know, it's raining anyway, so you might as well get wet, because she loved the water. She loved to swim too. And I think she wanted to get out there and go play with them, and Aunt Mabel wouldn't let us out of the car. I remember that time.
We always had I think always, most generally I guess, summer picnic as a family. Family meaning starting with 11 brothers and sisters, or aunts and uncles as far as we're concerned. But we always had this picnic, and Grandma would certainly be part of it. And that is one of the times she did leave the place, and she would go to it with us, and we'd either go down to Sylvie's Island, or sometimes as a kid I remember going to Scappoose Creek, get crawfish and things, and have a summertime picnic.
Carolyn passed away in 1973 after having had many falls and different problems. One thing that I didn't mention is that even as we were kids, she always had trouble with her legs. They were leg ulcers or something, and she was always wrapping her legs, and every child was told to avoid Grandma's legs because it was not good. You could make a sore. But later, in later years, when she was confined to a wheelchair, she didn't use her legs that much, and I don't know what the problem was there, because she always gave the impression of being a very strong lady. At any rate, eventually she had to go to the hospital. She was at Emmanuel, and the doctor had told the family that he thought probably it would be just a couple of days and she'd probably pass away. Everyone that could came to be with her. Not just her children and in-laws, but all the grandkids who could come came to be with Carolyn. We filled up the waiting room of Emmanuel Hospital, and we took turns going up to see her. And little by little, there'd be a few more come and a few more come. One day, when I was in there, I said, you know, Fawn is coming down tomorrow, and Jerry's going to be here probably the day after, as soon as he can get here. But we thought she was in a coma. We didn't think she could hear a thing we were saying. But we'd continue to talk to her and sit with her, and took turns, because there were so many. That way one person didn't stay in that small room very long. And then about the fourth day we were there, She opened her eyes when the doctor came in and she said, "Good morning, Dr. Chenard. How are you this morning?" And he looked at her as if he couldn't believe it. She had come out of it. And she looked at us and she said, "Did Fawn get here? Where's Jerry? Now, who else is there here?" And she just amazed us. And in no time, she was ready to go home to her little house up in the orchard where she lived for another 3 years, with help, of course, with somebody to help take care of her. But another thing that happened while she was in the Manual Hospital, we shared the waiting room with another large group of people from all over the country. It was a whole tribe of gypsies who had somebody very ill. I think it was with cancer, a young girl in the hospital, and she was probably 2 doors down from where Caroline's room was. And finally, one day, one of the men from the gypsies came over and he said, "We've been watching you. We've decided we like you." And I looked at him wondering what in the world he had in mind. He said, "You're exactly like we are. When somebody has a problem, you don't go off and leave them. You stay right here with them, and we like that." When Caroline died, she was 95, and her grave is out at Bethany Presbyterian Cemetery. That is the church that she went to as a child, and in fact, most of the older children were baptized at Bethany Presbyterian.
When Grandma had passed on, Jean and I decided we can't let this drop. We've got to keep this family together, and we initiated the family picnic every year. Didn't want to call it a reunion, that's too stuffy. So it was called a picnic, and we made sure the kids had something to do, games to play, something that was entertaining for them. And we couldn't help but compare it to the Brooks family picnic every year, which Jean and I tried to avoid if we could, because in that case they read the minutes of the last meeting a year previous and rang the bell for anybody who had passed on that year. That didn't go over too well. It didn't sound like fun to us. So we made sure that the family picnic that we wanted would be fun and something the kids would like.
Our annual family picnic is something that it brings what I think about when I go to the picnic, not only the history of when it began and with Grandma being there, is just that if we didn't have that picnic each year, that gathering, I don't know that that closeness would be maintained. There's a lot of people that maybe family members that haven't come in 10 years, and all of a sudden something in their life or whatever prompts them to come back, or they want to see the family, or they feel that that belongingness or something. Maybe they've been away for a while. And I just think it's wonderful to see faces that we haven't seen for a while. We have a beautiful spot right now with Jean and Bob Nixon. It's a lovely place for games. We're involved in all sorts of traditional games, water balloons, all ages, whether you're 70 like me and or you're 4, you're out there with the water balloons, or we have the 3-legged races. And usually, let's see, we cap it off with either the egg toss or something like that. But it gives, I think, a reference point for us as a family. We really can come back, kind of do a renewal of our backgrounds, hear the stories, catch up with what people are doing. It's just wonderful to think that, you know, it was so important to Grandma, and now it's so important to us that we can continue this and have a time to look forward to, a time to remember people by, people that aren't with us anymore. It means a lot to me.
We wanted it to always be held at a particular time, so people could look ahead and make plans, knowing that often there would be a 3-day weekend. They would want the 4th of July for personal reasons. So it's always been the week after. We changed that just once. 1976. We had it on the 4th of July because that was a very important date. And we all met at the Grange Hall, and that was the only time we've changed it.
I know that some families, when I talk about, oh, this, you know, the family gathering, they kind of go, oh, you have to go again this year, or something like that, or wow, that's really, you know, doesn't that get to be tiresome to see, you know, to be there with people and hearing people that maybe you don't want to see, and it isn't. It's something that goes back so far in the family. We're so, I don't know, Grandma really has been, I believe, in getting this going over the years. The adhesive, I guess I would call it, that made it important to us to know that this was something that needed to be carried on, and it's almost like a dedication to her in a sense too. That you know, I don't know if we have that kind of leadership in other families that would make it that important, or have that feeling. Maybe that's something that some families would say, oh, the last thing I want to do is go to a family reunion. But and I don't know, I never get the feeling there that anybody's being judged or being even if they haven't been around for a while or been kind of missing from the family roster. I always think there's this feeling of inclusiveness.
I don't know, I think it's real important that even the younger kids, they understand that they're part of something and not just a person here in the community, that they're part of a family, and a big family, and a family they can usually turn to for support if necessary, and that family members are always welcome in the family. They may wander about a bit, but they're always welcome back in the family. So.
People that we don't see, maybe 2 or 3 years, but if I felt like there's not one cousin that I couldn't call up and say, hey, I'm in a bind and I need this or I need that wouldn't try to help me. And it would go the other way too, as much as they help me or I'd help them. And I think that's what Grandma Kruger brought to us. What family really means.
Oh, this is nice. Yeah, it's just something that we all get together, and golly, they come from all over the states to get here to it. You know, it's a really gathering of the family.
Well, they enjoy, you know, the second cousin generation now, you know. They would like to probably know more of their cousins and second cousins. They even got third cousins coming, I guess, you know, and we don't know them as well as we should. And thank God for the effort that everybody still tries to be here. And Gene and Fawn and you guys, Ross, and everybody puts an effort into making it nice. And it is something that people should really try to make.